So in between these big videos, I was thinking to myself, oh, I could talk about more topical things that pop up and use some of the gameplay footage, sort of like some of the other videos I've made in the past, the smaller ones. And it just so happens that a very, very relevant to stuff that I cover sort of event is happening, in that there is a wave of censorship going on both Steam as well as itch.io, as well as other places, that is being driven by an Australian organization of mostly middle-aged white women who take issue with things like pornography, the depictions of violence against children, women, things like child abuse that is of a sexual nature, which, sure, yeah, maybe don't make things that glorify that, like Lolita, but outright banning them is a slippery slope, and today I'm going to be talking about that. So, let's get started with the things that are going on currently. The storefronts for Steam and itch.io are delisting as well as, or just hiding a bunch of adult games. Things that are of a sexual nature, generally. But that's not all. It's also things that cover queer things, as well as just kink things in general. But what's important here is that just a few hundred or a few thousand bored, middle-aged white women in Australia who probably haven't orgasmed in years are gaining enough leeway via bitching to Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal to have things censored. We no longer have to worry about just the government trying to censor the things that we consume. No. We have to worry about the titans of industry, the things that we use in order to purchase the things that we want. Now, the role of Collective Shout, the organization at here, is that of, they have been trying to get games banned in the past. They've tried with GTA 5. They also tried with Detroit, was it Beyond Human or something like that? In that they were like, oh, there's violence against women and stuff in it. But the thing is, right, is that Detroit, Beyond Turning Human, something like that, I didn't play it myself. Anyway, the thing about that game is, it's a poorly written racial comparison sort of a game where it's like the androids are sort of like you're given racial minority, but they're not very well handled. But the issue with the women being harmed, I'm assuming they're relating it to the fact that I think one or two of the main characters are women. The thing, though, is that in detailing the abuses of these characters, it's about showing how that's in fact not cool, bro, but they don't understand nuance like that. So that and other stuff leads them to having started their complaints towards Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal, and other payment services, I assume. I don't know what sort of cards are used in Australia. But seeing as how they are affecting things in the States, it is those three things that are their primary issues here. Now, these moral gatekeepers are getting games taken off Steam, such as... Well, the first game they targeted, and it's one of those things where it's a slippery slope. If you begin to allow one sort of pornography, that's not just outright illegal. Like, I don't believe there was illegal content in the game, but they targeted a specific game that was, admittedly pretty bad. Like, I wouldn't have played it, but I don't believe it broke any laws. But because of their complaints, it got taken down, and then that led to them being able to take more games down. Steam kinda, sorta didn't give in all the way, but when it comes to the risks at hand, they will allow more games to be taken off of their inventory. itch.io, on the other hand, a lot of indie games, a lot of pornographic or just romantic or just games covering things that this group finds objectionable, those have just been taken down. And some people have said that games that they've already purchased are no longer available because of this. The sorts of games that are being targeted not just include ones that have adult content in them, but also include, as I said, queer games, anything that involves the identity of being non-straight or non-cisgender, things that involve kink, or games that involve the exploration of the effects of trauma, as well as just exploring gender in general, which includes also games that are based upon autobiographical things. I've seen plenty of little games, like little 5 to 10 minute games that are about the experiences of survivors of different abuses growing up. And so games like that have been targeted. Games that are kink positive or designed and developed by sex workers. So beyond just the game's content, they're also going after the developers of the games themselves, cutting them out, and in the process of taking down their games, they are impacting their livelihood. I've heard some people say that stuff that they've had taken down, they're no longer making the money that they would have had from the sales that had gone on. Things like that. So overall, it's just pretty shitty for them. Now, the effects of this, the fallout and the collateral damage, is that as I said, the developers are losing income. Many of the creators are effectively being shadow banned. The developers being targeted or are overwhelmingly non-heterosexual ones, trans ones, who only really had itch.io as the primary source of being able to put up games for sale. Of course, players, thankfully, are on the sides of the developers and are responding by finding ways to get around these issues by buying the games directly, writing into Visa or MasterCard, as well as sharing the delisted games, because sometimes you can still have access to the game, it's just you just can't find it through searching it. You have to have a direct link. An organization such as Collective Shout that tries to take a moral stance, saying that, oh, if this piece of media covers things that are negative, such as sexual abuse, saying, oh, those shouldn't exist. Oh, speaking of the GTA thing, though, I forgot to say, they tried claiming that in GTA you're actually incentivized to commit acts of sexual violence, which isn't true. That's just, there's no points for, in fact, I don't believe that in any of the 3D games from GTA 3 onwards, you can even commit sexual violence, right? I've played all of them, right? And I can't recall any time in which that was an available course of action to take. In fact, I remember my friend in high school, his mom was doing some course in college and was writing a paper, and she asked me, oh, do you get points for raping prostitutes? And I was like, no! You get points for sick car tricks! What people might be thinking of, what people might be referencing, is that if you go and see a hooker, right, and I want to say in all of them, they would bring up your health, and I believe in some of the games you could even get it above 100, you get up to like 125 or something, and you would pay them for the service. Now, you could then kill them and get the money back, but that's not the same as getting points or anything like that. It doesn't incentivize you, nothing like that. And in fact, in a lot of the games, right, is that for as transgressive as the GTA games are, they generally do shine a light on the abuses of those in power, and they do generally put women in a position of their mistreatment is bad, go deal with the dudes that are mistreating them. It's basically their media analysis, their ability to process these sorts of things is hampered, which goes a great example, right? There was a movie in 2020 called Cuties, and I don't know if you know anything about it. For a bit of background, basically it's exploring things like child pageantry, which listen, if you're American, chances are you've heard of it. Other countries might not have, but basically It's really gross. They put kids and this is a real thing in the South. They love this stuff. They dress up kids and have them do like pageantry and all that, but they're also like swimsuit segments and all that. And basically, there's all sorts of it very much sexualizes children in ways, and it's just not great. And Cuties tries to show that side of things, in that, hey, this is some messed up stuff, and the critics are mixed on if it's done in a tasteful manner of like, hey, this is deplorable, this shouldn't be done, or if it's just a thinly veiled, hey, here's some footage, we put it up on Netflix is publishing it and all that, because Netflix defended it as for its artistic value, and it's just like, man, I don't know. Anyway, fun fact, Collective Shout is like, let's see, I can't remember the exact wording, but they were like, they might have not handled it great, but the movie is overall pretty good. It should stay up. It shouldn't be taken down. Which is very hypocritical, right? They don't give the same nuance to video games that they do to this movie. And here's the thing, right? Out of all these games that have been taken down, pretty much none of them contain the content that Cuties does. I've heard about some real creeps watching Cuties and getting off on it, and it's just, oh man, it's okay. So the double standards is the big issue. In a larger way of looking at the bigger picture, right, the industry and the public response in general, you've got some creators. We've got Lord Gooner himself, Yoko Taro. I pronounced that wrong. Yeah, I pronounced that fucking name wrong. I think it's Yoko Taro. Anyway, he condemned the censorship himself and warned that it's threatening democracy and expression. You might know him as the guy that made 2B from Nier Automata. He also made other big boobly women. He is sort of a more esoteric version of Hideo Kojima, only he doesn't, I don't know, should I insult Kojima a little bit? I mean, he did kick out fucking David Hayter. Anyway, there was a bunch of other creators too, but they were kind of small. Yoko Taro being the biggest of them all, and his voice being the loudest and the admittedly funniest. Now, the question is, why does this matter? Because maybe you don't play video games that have big flopping titties in them. Or maybe you don't play games in which a video game character expresses the trauma that they went through regarding sexual assault. But the thing is, right, is they're not going to stop there. This sort of thing has happened before. In fact, movies and such weren't allowed to mention things like pregnancy. Married couples sharing a bed wasn't allowed to be on screen for a while. I want to say that the Flintstones were revolutionary and that they showed that, but I'm not. I mean, you can quote me on that. It'll be fucking funny if you did. But yeah, it was called the Hays Code or some shit, like, in between gangster flicks and later. No, I think even gangster flicks were affected by it, because gangsters all had to be bad, right? And then sexuality in general wasn't allowed to be shown. I think you weren't supposed to show drinking itself. You could show booze, I believe, but you couldn't show people actively drinking it for a while. Essentially, between like 1940 and what was it, like 1972 or some shit, you just couldn't show a whole lot of stuff that's just part of human nature. Even if it's not glorifying, even if it's not just glorifying it, right? So anyway, them going after porn games is just another step towards controlling us more and more. We shouldn't have to bend to the whims of people who fundamentally don't understand the human condition. These people have influence and a degree of control over the capitalist system that we use, that we have to engage in order to acquire the goods that we desire to have. That is also dangerous, because they could cut off our access to a great many things, and censorship of this manner is very much a slippery slope. Now, what does this mean for the channel in general? Because After all, why do I give so much of a shit that I'm making this shorter video? I don't know how long it's gonna be. In fact, this is the second time I've had to record this section. After the Okotaro thing, turns out, I'm gonna check it right now. Yeah, thankfully it's still going, but it stopped going, and like half my video was gone. Because this next section was pretty long. So, the reason I give a shit, not that this itself would have been its own video, like this could have been enough, but I wanted to give some of it a preamble of sorts, is that a lot of the games I'll be covering contains things that these motherfuckers want censored. And these things include human sexuality, violence or the exploitation of children and or women in the game, as well as the presence of characters that are just not straight or just not cisgender, right? And these include, and I'm going to explain both the name of the game as well as the content in it that they take issue with. A Year of Springs, it's got a trans woman, it's got a bisexual woman, and it's got an asexual woman. So it's got a trifecta of things they don't like. Assassin's Creed, it's got women who get harmed. You do help rescue a lot of them, but they don't want to see women get harmed. Baldur's Gate 3, harmed women, harmed children, gay stuff, at least one trans character. Maybe 2 or 3. Celeste is a probably because of the fact that the main character is trans, though that is an outside of game information sort of thing. The developer herself discovered she was trans, I think, after she made the game. She didn't intend for Celeste to be trans, but retroactively was like, yeah, it makes sense that she's trans. And also, she herself is trans, and as I've mentioned, trans creators are being targeted, their games are being taken down, so Celeste itself could be taken down. Coffee Talk could be taken down because of the fact that there are non-heterosexual characters in it. Disco Elysium has a whole bunch of stuff. There are gay characters, there is violence against women, there are children, you can punch a child, you can shoot a child. Now, both those things are not presented as good things. In fact, shooting a kid gets you actually kicked out of the force, which, if this was America, that wouldn't happen. So that, Disco Elysium we could take down. Dragon Age, the entire Dragon Age series. There's violence against women, there's gay people, there is so much stuff that they don't like. The Elder Scrolls, you can punch women, you can light them on fire. There are children, though... Actually, yeah, it's wild. I just realized Skyrim has children. The other games didn't. In my previous recording, I forgot that Skyrim had children. I think you can technically punch the kids, although you can't kill them. Fallout is the next one. No, it isn't. It's Fable. Sorry, my notes are a bit wonky. Fable has gay people in it. It has violence against women. I think there are children. Those children might get hurt. Fallout, there are kids. I don't think they can get hurt, though, but there's stories of them getting hurt. Women exist. Sexual assault, you don't do the sexual assault, but it's a thing in there. One of my favorite side quests, in fact, is about helping a sexual assault victim go to therapy, and also you can find her rapist and kill him. And then she's like, oh, my revenge fantasy, but here's some money or whatever. And then a bunch of other people congratulate you because he's a piece of fucking shit. Final Fantasy, there are women, and guess what? They get hurt. I believe there might be children. There's probably children. There's probably children. God of War. Oh boy, so much stuff. The older games, guess I might not be covering it, though I've heard rumors of them being remastered. I'll play them if they're remastered. If not, the new games, there's a child, he's in danger. There's women, they are also in danger, and also get killed. GTA, as I described earlier, they hate GTA. Heaven Will Be Mine. That game has gay stuff in it. Maybe trans stuff in it as well. Kingdom Hearts. Guess what? There are women. There are children. There are children that are women. And they're all in danger. I don't know if there's gay stuff. Like, directly gay stuff. There's a lot of insinuations you can make. Octopath Traveler. There's women. There's danger. There's children. Pillars of Eternity. Gay stuff. Children. Women. Violence, trauma, all that stuff. Planescape Torment. It torments you with how much that the fact that there's women and it's a realistic environment in which there's violence, all sorts of stuff that they hate. Sonic the Hedgehog. You thought Sonic the fucking Hedgehog was safe? No. Tails Prowler is what, like 8 years old? And he's in danger. Amy Rose, I think is her last name. She's also in danger. She's a woman. I don't know her age though. She might be a teenager. She might be 20. I don't know. Starfield. There's women. They are in danger. There's children? Question mark. It's been I had 100 hours, and man, that fucking game. When I get to it, man, it's a dark ass joke, but it's almost good. The old man died before Starfield came out. Oh fuck. Undertale. That you play as a child. You're in danger. Is there like overt? There's straight up gay stuff. Like 2 of the guards are gay. And also 2 of the characters might be trans. Uncharted. There's women. And guess what? They do be in danger. There's at least 3 of them, and I know that they're in danger. Valhalla. There's gay stuff in that. There might be trans people. There's women. I think a woman gets murdered in it. Vampire the Masquerade. There is so much stuff in this that I'm covering it for Halloween. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. Hopefully. There's women. There's danger. There's gay. Yakuza games. This stuff I'm talking about is going to be over gameplay. I'm specifically aiming for gameplay that will be bannable under the shit that they want to be banned. There's so much stuff going on in Yakuza. There's kids all the time. There's women all the time. It's a soap opera. They're all in danger. Zelda. Guess what? Zelda, you know what Zelda is? Zelda's a woman. And you know what she is in? She is in danger. She is a dame. She is a damsel. She is a damsel in distress. Link's a twink. If you include violence in general, though, guess what? This list of games I just listed off is most of my games. But guess what? There was like 5 or 6 that I was like, I don't think it covers any of the stuff that they don't like directly, but they don't like violence. And guess what? All these fucking games have violence, don't they? This channel is a celebration of the medium of video games, a way to share the love that my old man and I both share for them with the world at large, or it's small. I don't think anybody's ever said that before, but I'm saying it now. I will not stop covering them, even if YouTube buckles under the pressure, and guess what? I've heard they are going to start buckling under some pressure. They're going to have an ID, you have to show your ID in order to watch it, which, I don't know if that's a state-by-state thing, like in Texas and other such states. Other countries, though, I'm in Michigan, which is a state in America, and while not everybody in the world is in Michigan, I have to take into consideration that that is in fact true, and that there's other countries where my content might not be available. Also, my content might not be available for anyone for much longer. If that is the case, I will continue covering the game via other means. I might do a podcast. I know I'm already be writing. I'm already planning on writing a book. It's gotten planned out. My notes for these different games is going to make up the bulk of the game, the book. I already wrote the intro to the book. I wrote the second chapter, which helps explain what trans people are, so that if you're reading it, you can understand things. Anyway, I'm not gonna stop. It's the thing. My old man's dead. I'm doing the thing where I play the games and I talk about the games. So with that, I'm gonna leave you off with the information that even if you don't furiously masturbate to pornographic video games on a regular basis, video games that you do love might be hit. Movies that you love might be hit. Books that you love might be hit. Because the real world is messy. Bad things happen. But also, love, the kindness shared between human beings, the human condition, these are all real things. These are all things we need to talk about. This is art. We use art is expression through means that are... I could do an entire video on what art is. Anyway, this is art. It shouldn't be touched by middle-aged white women that don't know how to use a vibrator properly. And with that, have a good whatever time dimension that you're in.